This
Yes.
conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, and just quick, everyone's pretty much doing it, but try to mute yourself if you're not talking, just so there's no weird feedback happening.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the December 21st, 2020 Kingston City Land Bank Board meeting. My name is Mike Gilliard. I serve as the Executive Director of the organization. For members of the general public, welcome to our meeting. We do have, as you see in our agenda, a public speaking period for which we ask you to limit your time to approximately 2 to 5 minutes per speaker. It looks like we have enough people on that maybe we can accommodate a little more time per speaker. But I do reserve the right to mute or remove anyone from the call who's acting inappropriately, so please keep that in mind with your comments. I'll turn it over to Daniel. Thank you.
Okay, we're already off to an out of order start. If somebody would like to raise a motion to pass last month's minutes, go right ahead.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Wait, did you get last month's minutes? Bob and I are at it.
Bob, is that a second?
Go for it, Ezekiel.
All right, all in favor.
Did you get Serena's comment about I was listed twice in the attendees?
Oh, I didn't. How was that sent over email?
I just emailed it. Sorry, I tried to catch you guys before the meeting, but obviously I waited until the last minute.
No worries.
Got it. Okay, thanks, Serena.
I also made a few very small edits. Bartek, I'm sure you saw the 2 edits I made.
Okay, so is there an updated draft that we should actually be looking at?
I believe the updated draft was sent.
Oh, okay.
With the exception of Serena's the double naming of Amari, which I just removed in the current draft.
Okay, so with the change of removing Omari for the second time of board attendance, all in favor of approving November's meeting minutes? Aye.
Aye.
All oppose? All abstain? Motion passes. We have approved minutes. Thank you. All right, moving on. So it's been a busy few weeks. We're a week early on our board meeting, but there's still a lot to report. So since we met last, we have hired a construction project manager, Owen O'Connor, who is with us this evening, as well as a chief financial services consultant, who is Erica Lane, who is also with us this evening. It's been a true pleasure and a joy to work with both of them over the last few weeks, and super excited to have them on the team. Some of you might know this already, but Caitlin Armstrong, who was our senior account clerk for about a year and a half, has taken a new position with the Department of Public Works. We are very happy for her and excited that she is in a new position with the city. So that's staffing updates, I think. We received our proposals as expected on the first 3 properties that we're going to be redeveloping. So not that anybody doesn't know, but those are 64 Van Buren, 174 Hasbrook, and 248 Main Street. We will talk at some length about those proposals later on in the meeting. We've continued to work with Novo closely, so a couple updates there. We worked with them to basically enlist their kind of top flight attorneys to review the foreclosure process and help provide us a due diligence checklist, which I have right here. It is a beautiful 3-page document, but basically to try to continue to work through some of these title issues that we're encountering with the city. So we can talk about that a little bit more later too. Aside from that, we have a signed grant agreement. The first round of funding hit our account today, I believe. So that is incredibly exciting. So basically this is the pilot with Novo. It makes up kind of the funding gap for the 5 rehabs that are on our agenda for 2021, and also cover some operating expenses and things like that. So very, very cool. Super happy to have them as a funder of our work. The emergency repair at 174 Hasbrook continues apace. Unfortunately, the contractor is not quite as available as we were hoping and expecting, so it's moving a little bit slower, but it'll get done. It's all under control, and Owen has been invaluable in sort of jumping in there and taking that over, which is great. Let's see. Strategic plan, which a lot of you guys have been asking about. So Mike and I have a meeting tomorrow morning after discussing with a bunch of you. I think the best way that we've always kind of worked as a board, it seems to me, is sort of getting a document out there that we can then all pick apart and play with. So Mike and I are aiming to kind of get that done tomorrow so that we can commence like a more formal strategic planning process as soon as the clock strikes midnight on 2021. So that's very exciting. We did our first round of board self-evaluations. Our governance committee, mostly Bob and Aneshka, worked on compiling all of those. They put together a really good document that's basically like common themes that came out. I think those things will factor into our strategic planning process, which is great to have on hand. They also sent recommendations to the mayor to either appoint or not reappoint myself, Alana, and Karin. So pending that, this could be my last board meeting, and I hope not, but you know, pour one out for me in January if that's what it happens. I walked through all 3 of the buildings with a representative from building safety to sort of go over the scopes, basically a pre-site walkthrough. All looks good there. He didn't really have any concerns or kind of additional requirements on our part for what we submitted, so that's awesome. Let's see, Mike got a contract for a snow removal done, so that was taken care of for our first big dump of the year. I spent some time kind of putting together a renewed property list. It's been sort of a while since we've really focused in on like the 36 properties specifically. So there was a spreadsheet circulated to the board and the mayor, including the mayor, which basically provided a little bit of kind of extended detail on what these properties are, what the basic kind of rehab looks like. The major takeaway is that, you know, kind of they all need extensive rehab. There's not a single house on here that, you know, doesn't need kitchens, bathrooms, heating, plumbing, electric. Some of them need roofs, et cetera, et cetera. So, but we can use that to sort of inform our priorities since we can't just sort of throw them all at the title company at once. So I'll get to that a little bit more on the acquisition and disposition committee report, but you guys should all have that. Partially in response to the last meeting and some specific requests, Mike me and Aneshka met with Kathy Germain at Repco, who runs the First Time Homeowners Program, among some other stuff, to discuss the sales piece of these homes, since we want to kind of be able to direct people in the right place. I would say at this time, it's looking very likely that we'll be working with Repco as the sales agent for these homes. We've talked before, but we don't have the staff capacity to act as agents for these houses. Repco has done this for years. They know how to do it. It's a very set up shop, and they're excited to work with us. And so honestly, it's one of the easier meetings that I've had in my time at the land bank. I think everyone's pretty much on the same page, and that's very encouraging to me. And most recently, Mike and I and our attorney Brian talked to Adam Zarenko from Albany and their legal counsel, and a few other people were on the call to sort of talk through some of these title issues that everyone's tired of hearing about, I'm tired of dealing with, that we're encountering with our acquisitions, and sort of understanding their experience and their process. I think it was helpful. At the same time, I think it sort of reinforced a lot of what we've been thinking and saying about some of the issues that we're encountering specifically in Kingston. So to be continued. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But I think that's pretty much my announcements. Mike's nodding his head, so I'll take that as a great. So with that, we set aside a little bit of an extended public comment period to try to talk about all of this with anybody from the public that's interested, answer any questions, etc. We have a little bit of an expanded public audience tonight, which is fun. So I will turn it over. It's a little hard to moderate on a Zoom, but I guess whoever wants to jump in, go right ahead, and we'll figure this all out together. Sounds good? Great.
Hey everyone.
Yeah.
I guess I will jump in. I guess it's for the record. I really hope that the mayor is going to be watching all these, public comments and following up. It's, I guess, disappointing to see that he's not here during the extended public comment point. But I know most of you, as you know, I was on the board back in October of 2018 and left in February of this year. And I just wanted to bring up, based on many conversations, Callie Jane, Rise Up Kingston, also a Kingston resident homeowner. I just wanted to bring up just, continuous concerns about the number 36 houses that we've been talking about for a very long time, and the fact that we're down to 5 or 3 currently in possession, I believe, of the land bank. And I think the questions that we are continuing to have as we're talking about housing in our communities is what is actually the holdup in ensuring that we have, that the land bank, is given these properties, and that these properties are not just continuing to deteriorate, because it's been years of holding on to these properties. Meanwhile, we have people who are still houseless. We are still in a housing crisis here in the city of Kingston, and it seems like they're just deteriorating and a waste. And we keep hearing about these title issues, which, considering of the partnership between the land bank and the city, which, again, for the record, still feels very complicated and possibly has some conflict of interest in it. It seems very unclear as to why these title issues cannot just be handled, and want to figure out what it is that the land bank is doing and that the city is doing, or you all are pushing the city to do, to ensure that we don't just continually have these homes that at some point are just going to be teardowns. And so it seems like, I see that you all have a plan. I see that you released your 2020, accomplishments, and it's great. There's an amazing list of accomplishments on there. And I also see that you all are fundraising. But there is a huge concern about the fact that, right now the land bank only holds these 3 homes and is kind of tying up the remaining 33 with no clear answers to the public as to what is the actual holdup. When you say title issues, every meeting that I've watched, we just keep hearing title issues, but we need to figure out clear to the public what these issues are, who is actually holding it up, and what we need to do to change it. Otherwise, these houses need to go to the people who are houseless and just try and figure out another way to get them fixed if the land bank is not able to take them on. And this is not a sell to the highest bidder situation. This is they've been sitting here deteriorating, give them to someone place. Like, this is where we are. And so, I know this is public comments. I'm not expecting an answer, and I do have to feed my kids, so I can't make it to the end of the meeting. But the community really wants to know very clearly what are these title issues that are preventing the land bank from being able to move forward with the 36 properties that we've been talking about since October of 2018. And that's all I've got.
Oh, thank you. It's good to see you, by the way. I feel fine about spending a second addressing these things, especially because there's not that many people. So with the board, I hope that's okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
Certainly,
I totally am excited for you to address these. Where is the mayor? Is there a reason he's not here tonight?
he informed us this morning that he had a conflict and could not make it. That's all I know.
Okay.
I also am disappointed that he's not here. I hope there's a very good reason. With that said, the title issue. So just to be very clear about this, we are talking about 36 properties, not 36 homes. It's actually 24 homes, I believe, and 12 vacant parcels. The title issues, the reason that this honestly kind of sucks and has gone on for so long is essentially that there are different issues on different properties. So we've been working on them basically one by one. I think that's really the only way to do it. I circulated something to the board this week that tried to sort of explain this, but to reiterate, so we operate, I think everybody knows, very differently than most land banks throughout the state, definitely throughout the country. So some land banks, including Albany, do not run title searches on their properties. That I think can be explained a couple of ways. The first being that they acquire the properties for $1. So if somebody brings suit and they have to give the property back, kind of worst case scenario for them, there's no great loss. The second thing is that because they don't really have a strong or even in some cases any focus on affordable housing, they're typically selling to kind of all cash developers that can also assume the risk of buying a house without title insurance. The issue here is that because there's title issues and we can't get title insurance, we also can't sell them to somebody kind of within our mission that can't assume that risk of not being able to get title insurance and know that they, own their house properly. So I wish I could tell you exactly what the issue is. That's what we've been working through, and I can tell you kind of all the different ways that we've been trying to work through that, but that includes bringing in the chief financial officer of Albany County, who basically wrote the land bank law and has been there for every amendment to the law. He knows the stuff backwards and forwards. We brought him into City Hall to meet with the mayor, the assessor, the corporation council, the comptroller, kind of anybody that might have a stake in this, to try to discuss the foreclosure process and what Kingston is doing that seems to be either a little out of step with the state statute or just sort of not quite best practice. So for a few of the properties, we've found state liens. We don't totally know what to make of those other than the title company has said that we would need to hold hundreds of thousands of dollars in escrow for years until those liens expired. Those essentially shouldn't be there as far as we understand, and that is truly a qualifying statement. As far as we understand, those liens were attached to the property between the judgment and the actual foreclosure taking place. Essentially, there was just a period of time that elapsed that kind of shouldn't have, or if it was going to, then it would seem to us like best practice for the city to have informed the state that they were undergoing foreclosure proceedings so that the state wouldn't attach these liens. Now that they have, there seems to be some process that we are trying very hard to figure out what it is to, oh, my concept, oh, there's it, hi. We're trying to figure out what the process is. Basically, as far as we know, there is something out there that the city can approach the state and ask for these liens to be extinguished. The city's corporation council has said in no uncertain terms that they will not be undertaking this process. We have basically pushed to help them do it so that all they really have to do is send a letter on their letterhead, but that remains ongoing. One of the other issues that we're encountering is just, I think, not finding the right fit for a title insurance company. So the company that we're working with now, there's 2 properties that appear to have pretty clean title, but they've said regardless, they will not insure it because basically somebody could bring suit. They don't have any grounds to bring suit. The statute of limitations has passed, but it's too great a risk for them. So essentially, I believe we need a new title company that knows how to navigate these issues, understands this process better than the local one that we have now. So that's part of it. There's also recognized environmental conditions. Most municipalities simply do not foreclose on properties that have RECs, recognized environmental conditions. So basically, if there's some kind of oil spill or something that would require major remediation, they won't foreclose on it because it immediately kind of gives them the liability. And so in Kingston, we have a couple of instances where the city has foreclosed on those properties, is looking to the land bank to acquire them. We really need to kind of do our due diligence to make sure that we're not walking into a, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollar remediation project. There are other instances where, unfortunately, after months and months of questioning, the city, the corporation council office has not provided proofs of service or any documentation to our title company so that a title search could be completed. I don't, the path through there is they kind of need to get on board, or we don't have a path to acquire the property. So that's a sampling of what we're dealing with. For context, this does not seem to be an issue kind of elsewhere. So in terms of looking towards solutions, we've also, we had a verbal commitment from the mayor about a week and a half ago that additional resources would be accepted by the city of Kingston if they were offered to help kind of look over the foreclosure process as it stands, provide recommendations, help kind of unstick these properties that seem to be stuck in this ridiculous limbo. So we're working with Novo to sort of formalize an offer to do that. But that was the first time that that offer has been met with reception versus when Corporation Council essentially laughed us out of the room. So I guess I'm not sure what else to say other than the only way that we can do this is property by property we are working as fast as we can and as fast as we can get our title searches to work, and as fast, everybody I think is focused on this issue, because obviously we can't do much if we can't acquire the properties that we're here to acquire. But at the end of the day, if we can't acquire them, there's no reason to think that really anybody else could either, especially somebody that can't assume the risk of buying a house without title. So that's where it stands. I think it's not the most satisfying answer, but we are, week by week getting closer to real solutions here. But it's a process that nobody saw coming, apparently, including the Corporation Council of Kingston. So
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that info, and I'll definitely follow up with more questions. But I think I'm hearing that the city is the holdup right now in many of these challenges, and this information wasn't passed on about what was happening with the title, and there's some challenges with the Corp Council not moving forward with the process to clear some of these titles. So I'll definitely follow up. Don't want to take up too much space, but thanks for clearing that up.
Good to see you. Next.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Rashida Tyler. I'm a housing organizer and founder of the Rural Kingston Tenants Union. Grew up in Kingston. So I'm kind of a lot of what I had to say was probably answered by what you just said about the kind of timeline for the total number of properties that were identified by the land bank 2 years ago. But I also want to bring into the context of this the COVID-19 pandemic and the fact that we were already facing a housing crisis before. And so now the housing crisis is acute. There are people being given eviction notices every day. There are people sleeping in their cars. The crisis is really quite it's really quite remarkable for its depth. And the fact that we have homes that could be renovated and could be a place that people could go that are sitting fallow because there's, maybe the city corporation council is not responsive or there's some other holdups is quite galling, I have to say, in hearing that. And it's disturbing because the intent of the land bank was to create affordable home ownership options. And in the case of multifamily houses, places that people could rent, but also create that layer of affordability within the city that isn't currently there. We have people who are being priced out. We have a community that is being destroyed by, this kind of vulture capitalism that's coming in and this vulture investment that's coming in. And it's preying upon the fact that, there's people who are willing to evict others in order to have people who can pay more move in. And then we have the land bank, which right now, understanding that, I think remarkable steps have been taken to try to set up something and establish something that can create that kind of layer of middle housing, of affordable housing that is missing from the market right now. But the fact that, there's all of these kind of personal delays, like corporation council won't do this, appropriations committee won't do that. That's not in the spirit really of what the land bank was supposed to do. And I'm hoping that we can have a timeline, or maybe the board or the city can establish a timeline to get these projects, these homes on the market. I think it's a very real concern that a lot of them are becoming further, deteriorating even further, especially when there's people in the community who have carpentry skills, plumbing skills, electrical skills that can actually come in and take over one of these properties and turn it into a place that is a place that people can live who are facing homelessness or at risk of being priced out. And so I just have a couple of questions based on the last conversation that I hope could be answered. And that is, do you know the percentage or number of the 30 plus properties that have title issues. I know you mentioned there were 2 that have clear title, but the title insurance company was not issuing that necessary insurance. But are there more that also have clear title that could be, put into a pot that can be, when you look for a new title insurance company, kind of fast tracked to marketability to the public who needs it? And again, keeping in mind that we have enough people coming from far off who can afford, whatever, but keeping these homes for the people who work at Hannaford, keeping these homes for the people who are from our community and who need them. Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, I mean, that is the mission, that remains the mission. We, also recognize that this is a crisis moment in Kingston for housing, that there are plenty of people from out of town who can afford to buy on the open market. They are free to do so. We are not here to serve them. The percentage of homes that have title issues is difficult to say because there are some that we haven't even started the title investigation. That is truly like a personal delay thing where we're dealing with the actual people and they can only do 5 at a time. And so we have to prioritize that way. Unfortunately, as you noted, like they have moved slower than expected and hoped for, I would say in large part because of the pace at which the city has provided these documents that would allow a title search to be completed. So part of what you're asking, I think, is what we should be rolling out within the first quarter of next year, which is more of a strategic plan that does address trying to get all of these properties bought and sold within a reasonable time frame. So there's a couple different ways that that'll happen. The first is kind of what we've been talking about recently and are sort of doing right now are these full rehabs, turnkey renovations. Once they're in, there shouldn't really be anything to do unless they really want to, finish their basement or something. There's also obviously the possibility of doing as-is sales. I think that is really tricky because it's, handing somebody a $150,000 rehab project that, is not necessarily suited to an affordable sale. So it's difficult. I think what will likely move toward is having some that are full rehab, some that are fully as is, and some that we do some level of kind of stabilization work to get it to the point that it can be mortgaged, insured, and sold. So I expect that to be done within the next couple of years to have worked through all of these properties. Like I said, there's 24 houses, there's about 12 vacant lots. We're trying to aim for sort of a mix right now in terms of our due diligence. So taking, let's say 1 vacant lot, 2 that we can see selling as is, and 2 that we can see rehabbing, or some combination like that, so that we can start buying these things, moving them through the process and getting them kind of out back on the tax rolls. And we can, as you say, stop talking about these 36 properties that we've all been, talking about for 2 years. So I hope that sort of helps. We do, want to kind of fast track, quote unquote, some of these properties. And, I can tell you, I've been in all 24 of them. I know them well. There are certainly some that are degrading faster than others, and we're trying to get to them quickly. I think we can all kind of agree that demolition is pretty much the worst possible outcome. So nobody on this board, I don't think, is particularly interested in seeing that happen. And we're all really working to make sure that it doesn't. So that's also kind of informed some of our priorities for which properties we pursue title searches on next. But it is a process. Like, I think, to be totally honest, like the way that the land bank was sort of pitched to the public and to the city, and everybody was this incredibly simplistic view of what this really takes. And so I think, you know, it's no secret. Our very first board meeting, we voted to acquire all 36 of these properties, and it was supposed to happen really fast. And up until 8 months ago, the Corporation Council literally told us these are the fastest closings you'll ever experience. You hand us a check, we move the file from one file to the other file, and you own the house. And that is so far from what we've experienced. And so I really, you know, appreciate and would echo back everybody's kind of frustration here. But I would, you know, ask that there's a recognition that this truly, I mean, is people working tons of hours, including myself, including Mike, including other board members to really get this done. We are not, if there was a faster way to do this, I would be all for it. I really am, you know, not, if the land bank isn't the best answer here, I'm so open to other options, but I think we are serious about getting this done, and we're sort of the most serious thing on the table to get these particular properties unstuck, because they truly are just stuck in this weird no man's land with the city. And so we're, yeah, we're truly doing our best to get them into our hands, off of the city hands, off of the idea that they could be, you know, switched over and sold at auction to the highest bidder. We don't want to see those things happen. So that's what we're looking for. I don't know if that answers any of your questions, but I'll stop talking.
Yeah, it does. You know, I think as an organizer and an activist, I really want to know where to kind of um, to focus, because it's clear that the board is, you know, you've been working really hard. I hear you, you know, and so we're looking at Corporation Council and the holdup. I mean, the process sounds long. That's you know, and I'm taking up too much space, but you know, I think I will be revisiting again what we can do, circling back to the Corporation Council and the
Thank you. You were breaking up a lot, but I think I caught most of that. Yeah, we will, I mean, continue to discuss this at our meetings. We're available anytime to talk about any of it. You know, I would caution, I hate to say this, but, you know, there are still things that we don't know. So that's, you know, I don't want to direct too much at the Corporation Council or anybody else within the city until we sort of know exactly what needs to happen. You know, I think it's a different story if they're refusing to do things that we're asking for right now. I think it's more an issue of we really need to lay out the path for them. And that's exactly what we're working on. So I hope to have better news in a month or two, because as everyone's picked up on, this has gone on for quite long enough. So with that, Dan.
Hello, everyone. Dan. For people who don't know me, I've been trying to get a house down on Rodney Street in Kingston, and been coming to meetings for about a year. And I just want to say thank you to Callie and Rashida, because I don't really have the guts to like ask those kind of hard questions. I really just concerned about this one house, but obviously I share your concern, guys, about just like what's going on. I'm watching the house I want deteriorate, and it's really frustrating when it's like this would have been the perfect summer for me to work on it, and but what are you gonna do? That's a thing too. What can we do? Here's my first question. I think somebody said it was like, can we like start calling the city? If the city is the holdup, can we start calling the city? Can we start doing something as citizens to be proactive in trying to loosen up these houses? Even calling the state. If the state's holding it up, is there a way for us to call the state?
So the state issue, great question. I made a bunch of phone calls. I couldn't get a very clear answer, which is why I think this is now a lawyer / title insurance issue. But I would say if you want to, you'll be wasting your time with the Department of State and the Tax Commission. And the Tax Collector Office seemed a little more competent, but not super helpful. In terms of the city, I think as of right now, this isn't really a call to action. I think the mayor recently committed to meeting with Corporation Council on our behalf.
No, that's OC.
So those meetings hopefully will be taking place imminently. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten any commitment on when, but hopefully those will sort of at least help us prioritize based on insights that the Corp Council might have that we simply don't, because they've been dealing with these properties for years, and they know the issues better than we do on the individual properties. Just so we commenced title search stuff on Rodney back in July. That is the property, unfortunately, that I referenced earlier, that the Corp Council simply hasn't produced any documents in spite of repeated and sustained questioning about it. We do not have a title search. We do not have a clear path forward because we don't control those documents and they haven't been provided to our title company. Ilana has something to say.
I want to thank you, Daniel, for answering all these questions, and also thank you, Daniel, Ali, and Rashida. I really appreciate members of the public coming and expressing concerns. I agree how miserable and horrible the situation is now and how much we need to get people into these houses. I guess I just want to say that I do think, given that we got a sort of commitment from the mayor to meet with Corporation Council, but I haven't seen it in writing and I haven't seen a date. That one thing that coming out of this meeting, I do hope very much that the board leaves with a concrete set of benchmarks, deadlines, that by like the next acquisition and disposition committee meeting and then the next board meeting, that these meetings have happened, that we can come back with like real clear information or progress moving forward, or then it does become more of a call to action, because it's been too long. So I do think, and again, appreciate the public comment, that we should, before we leave tonight, have a really clear set of next steps and things that need to happen moving forward, like before the next meeting.
Yeah, thank you. Jordan. Hi, Jordan.
Hi everyone. I'm Jordan Scruggs. I'm a City of Kingston resident, and I live up the street from one of the houses that I think you guys have maybe gotten a clearer title for on Van Buren Street. So you have a clear title for Van Buren? Is that
not only that, we own it and we have proposals for the redevelopment.
And you have proposals for the redevelopment?
Yes, which we'll be discussing later.
Okay, great. So I was just curious. So we're I'm working with a local organization right now. It's in the process of sort of shifting where our emphasis and our focus is away from a community center project that we were working on to thinking about, you know, obviously housing. There's a lot of organizations in the area that are working on housing, but helping stabilize, not just providing folks with housing, but also stabilizing families and giving them opportunities to grow into a new space or into a new life if they haven't had the chance to. So I run a program at SUNY Ulster called New Start for Women, and we provide wraparound services to them. And so thinking about how we can augment public with private money to do some similar things in terms of stabilizing folks that are struggling with housing. And basically what I wanted to ask, you know, I'm looking at my block right now. We had the shooting this weekend. That was, or I guess it was last Thursday now. It was horrific. And it's the Van Buren house is 2 houses up from there. It's right there. And I can't help but think that, you know, part of the issues that we have in our community are because of so much blight. You know, people feel like nobody cares about our neighborhood or the people who live here. And so one of the things that I've been kicking around with some people is, you know, sort of this like block by block transformation that they've worked on in other cities. Van Buren happens to be where I live. I know it's not the only place it's like this, but just on my block alone, on my half of Van Buren and the house where you all and where the shooting happened is on the other half of Van Buren, there are 5 empty houses with nobody in them. And so we're trying to think about how we might be able to harness some of the energy right now to revitalize those spaces. And so what I was curious about is, you know, we need we need something to help us get the momentum going. And I'm wondering, I don't know if you all are allowed to do this or not, but would the land bank consider selling a property to a nonprofit that was dedicated to helping stabilize families in affordable housing with other supports?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for the work you're doing. Second of all, it's good to see you. Third of all, yeah, that's absolutely something that we can do. I think it's something that we're very interested in doing. You know, obviously it would need to be a funded, legit proposal that will actually happen. But yeah, I mean, I think Van Buren is a great example. So for reference, we did choose that house specifically because of, you know, all of the vacancy on the street. We, unfortunately, that's the only one that is city owned and we can do something with. But it's also a block where I believe 39 Van Buren was a city-owned property. They sold it at auction, well, not at auction actually, but basically to the highest bidder situation. That was about 6 years ago. That house continues to be vacant, boarded up. Nothing was ever done. This is exactly why the land bank is here, to make sure that situations like that don't happen. So yeah,
I just have a question. Is 39, I'm trying to place 39. Is 39 is not the one that's right next to the park. It's the one that's right before the one that's next to the park, right?
You're looking at the park, I think it's 2 doors in. So
yeah, so there is somebody who, the people who own it do come and work on it occasionally. I mean, it's still empty, but there is a family that lives close by that does come and work on it. So, you know, maybe, you know, as far as vacant properties on my block go, like that's one of the least problematic. So,
yeah. I mean, last time it sold to a landlord that lived in Yonkers, so I don't know if something has changed.
Yeah, and I'm interested too. I'm just like, you know, I know everybody. Obviously, I really appreciate the work and the time that you guys have put into this because I know you just probably feel like tearing your hair out. But you know, I see a different vision for our community than the one that we have right now, and I want it to be different. It has to, you know, I have a kid too. It has to be different. And so part of the reason I wanted to ask about that, I think we could come up with a really good proposal for you. And if that, I don't know if you want to do that, like, I am totally fine with you guys, and you've got proposals for what you want to do with it. If you want to go ahead and renovate it, I don't know if it's going to be single family or 2-family, with like an apartment setup. I don't know anything about that, but whatever, like we would be, I've been doing a lot of research into something called mobility mentoring for the women in our program. There's a housing project in Boston that utilizes mobility mentoring, and they actually work with using brain psychology to help address what keeps people trapped in poverty, in terms of decision making and things like that. It's entirely driven by the people who get placed in those homes. And anyway, it's a really unique and amazing opportunity. We're in conversations with Novo about it, and how we're going to pivot. We've got a meeting with them in January, so they don't know about this particular conversation yet. That I wanted to be able to go to them and say, like, hey, this is a potential partnership we could form with the land bank if it's something you guys would be open to.
Yeah, so obviously Novo is obviously one of our funders as well.
Right.
It is absolutely within our, disposition policy and ability to dispose to other nonprofits that are doing similar work. Basically, we would likely want, some input on what the deed restrictions and primary residency requirements and things like that. But like, just to address 64 Van Buren specifically, I think the ship has sailed on that one for kind of another group getting involved. But obviously, there's 21 houses that we're discussing. There's about 10 more that we're planning to ask for authorization to purchase from the city as well. So there's plenty of houses.
So I'm just trying to understand exactly what you said, because it was sort of fading in and out. It sounds like 64 Van Buren is a property that someone else is already working on with you.
Well, no, we're actually doing it. So we have already created a scope of work, designed the house, sent out an RFP, received proposals. Tonight, later, we'll be talking about those proposals. And so that one's pretty much, I think, dealt with, but there's obviously others that we're continuing to investigate. We know that the land bank itself by itself cannot renovate all of these houses. It's just obviously way too much work. It would take way too much time. It's too much money, like all those reasons. So
right.
I think we're absolutely looking for opportunities to partner with other organizations. We've had preliminary conversations with a few, but I'm not familiar with yours. So yeah, we're happy to talk.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you so much for your time. I know you guys are over your comment period, and I appreciate your taking my question. And I'm here, so find me if you have any thoughts. Yeah, thanks, guys.
Are there any more public?
Hey there, do I have a little bit more time?
Sure.
That'll be brief. First of all, I guess they left. I was going to say, if anybody is buying properties and wants help with the construction side of it, give me a shout. I'm happy to organize this stuff. And just want to say, like, if anyone's suggesting giving a house to someone who just got evicted, like all these houses are wrecked. So just to understand the scope of work, which obviously you guys know. But anyway, that was a comment. And then the other thing was, so after you guys get Rodney Street, how quickly would you be accepting proposals for the property, and how much time would you have to give, and or how many would you have to put in the paper and take it from a bunch of different people? Because obviously I'm aware that just because I'm coming to meetings doesn't mean that I'm getting this house automatically or something,
Honestly, Mike can probably answer that question better than I can. As you know, we haven't gone through an as-is RFP sale yet, so I don't know exactly what that process looks like. But Mike, Mike seems to. Go for it.
I'll probably speak more generally, but Daniel, I know you want specificity related to the property itself, but I think we've talked about a lot of the specific title issues, but let's say that there weren't, and we acquired a property that had been taken through foreclosure, or any property that the land bank has. All of our dispositions are done through offering to the general public. So it would go out for if it was something that we weren't rehabbing, it would go out when we made the decision to sell it as is for a public request for proposals. If it was something that we did rehab and decide that we wanted to produce affordable housing, you'll see more of that process next year as we kind of roll that out, what that looks like. But that's a full engagement with the general public. We have a community and communications committee that would be engaging with the general public, in addition to, you know, media outreach as far as we can get to try to reach everybody for the, you know, for the opportunity to purchase from us. That's kind of how we're set up, and that's what we'll do. I don't know if that answers your question about the specific property that I know you've been very patiently coming to our meetings to talk about, but they'll all be disposed of in the same public process.
Yeah, I was just curious if that process is figured out, or it's like once you obtain, say, 5 of them, then you're going to work on, because obviously we're working on other things now, right? You're working on this construction project. I totally know how much time a construction project, you know, building it takes, or if you're going to actually build the process and have it ready to pull the trigger when you obtain the properties.
Correct. So what we're doing concurrently is setting up the process by which we'll be offering the homes for sale at the same time that we're preparing what we're going to do in construction. We have a lot of people, you know, obviously working very hard behind the scenes with the land bank. All the board members are engaged in different committees. There is a committee that's focused on the RFP side and the construction side, and there's a committee that's focused on community engagement, marketing, and sales. Watch this space. I really think, or at least watch the newspapers early next year. I think you'll start to see some outreach related to the homes that we'll be talking about later on tonight that we hope to get in under construction with soon. And then the marketing and sales takes place at the same time. We're not waiting until we have completed homes to get ready to sell them.
Yeah, and I would just add, we are so not interested in holding properties any longer than, you know, we have to. I think especially because of how long it's taken to start to acquire these and how long they were already sitting before that. Like, it's yeah, we're not trying to. Some land banks do sort of like hoard, they land bank properties so that, you know, they can have a targeted revitalization project where, you know, they're basically buying everything on a block or something. We don't have that situation in Kingston, so there's no real reason for us to bank properties. It's really about getting them out.
So it's just unknown whether it would be like a 3-month process, a 1-month process of, you know, marketing the property and taking in applications, or you know, wait till you get 10 applications, or is there any idea? Like,
so realistically, I think it like probably is more like a 3-month process than a 1-month process, but I don't specifically really know. We would have the RFP out for a certain amount of time, not to kind of get a threshold of proposals. So if there's only one, there's only one. If there's 10, there's 10. So I would guess, which is truly a guess that I personally am making, not speaking for the board, that we would have an RFP out for a month. Before that, we would probably develop scopes of work, or, you know, just to have a basic understanding of what the property needs. So I would think it's a few month process, but that's kind of the best I know right now.
another thing, just I'm trying to think of, you know, obviously I've spent a year chasing this thing. I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, should I keep going down this path, or should I not? Right. So that's why I'm asking all these questions. Please don't.
Yes.
You know, I hope you understand. So the other question would be like, okay, so say Rodney Street is $1,700 in taxes. You guys are probably spending another $1,000 or who knows on title issues. and then if I offer, 20,000, is that cool? Or if I offer 10,000, is that okay? Or is it, I'm just like, and is there like a second wing? Like if somebody offers one thing, is it like a bid, or is it like if me and somebody else are bidding, is it a one-time bid, or we get like a second chance to like go back and forth about the price? And obviously some of it's going to be based on merit and things too, but so there's someone else maybe has better merit than I do, or ability to fix the house or whatever. But not that it really matters the price, because I already have my limit, so I don't know. Anyway.
Few different questions in there. I'm not sure I have the answers to any of them, to be honest. For the houses like that we're renovating, the sale price is basically a pretty simple, well, nothing simple, but calculation based on the AMI. So we're trying to serve like 60 to 80% AMI for some of the houses. And so basically it's based on what that family can afford, not really based on the, not relevant is the price, the fair market price of the house, like those things aren't really part of it. So I think it's likely to be something similar for as-is sales, where I'm not sure it's going to be directly proportional to like what we are spending to acquire it, particularly kind of based on the proposals that come in. So I wish I knew how to answer the sales price. I think that the bigger thing you would need to worry about is the redevelopment cost.
You said something interesting there. Like, what if you guys like actually set the price? You did a scope of work, figure out how much it would cost to redo the house, and then what it would be worth, and then kind of sort of take all that math into one. Just an interesting idea. I mean, that's pretty much what I've been doing, is looking at the house and calculating. But that'd be weird. It'd be interesting if you guys actually did it. It was like, all right, we're selling a house for this, or whatever you can afford, sliding scale, and also here's the scope of work to do it. Can you accomplish this? Like, what's your proof that you can accomplish it? Like, I wish the other guy didn't leave. One of the biggest things is like, right, if we go back to just bidding all these houses out, I know of 2 houses right now on Beale Street, one of which got redone, fine, no big deal, didn't get any permits or nothing though, so if he wants to resell it, it's going to be a thing, but whatever, it's been done and someone's living there. And the other one, it's been like 8, 9, 10 years now, and he's still not, I met with the guy and he's still not living in it, right? He has another house, still not living in it. So it's not, that didn't solve any housing processes either in that specific situation, you know what I mean? And also a lot of the houses got overlooked or whatever, there's nobody wants them, But anyway.
Okay, were there any other public comments? I see there's a caller number 1, but we're pretty over time. Unless caller 1, you have a really brief public comment, maybe we could just try to get through it. Okay.
Okay. I think if we can, let's move on from the public comment period, because it's been over an hour.
Can I just make a brief comment to address the public comment period? I would like to propose that we add the organizations that commented on tonight's, or that had questions for tonight, to our media list, to our outreach list, so that when we have press releases, they don't have to go search for them. They get them directly to whoever is looking for that information. And I'm not sure if that's also appropriate, or if that's something that we've already accomplished with our mailing list for Daniel, but just an idea to keep everybody looped in, since we will have, our strategic plan will be more finalized, and we'll have, I think, answers for a lot of these questions about the time frame and everything within the next month, I think. So I just thought that that would be a good way to get it all out at the same time in the same place.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. All right, if we can.
Sorry, Daniel, if everyone could, anyone that has interest can just put it in the chat. and that would be really helpful. So the board can take note of the organizations that were here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Okay, Mike, do you have an executive director's report for us?
It's an hour and a half long, so everybody strap in.
I'll grab my cocktail.
Okay, I will keep it brief. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see so many new faces from the general public on the call, and I was thinking through as they were giving their public comments that, you know, from my perspective and my experience professionally, sometimes, you know, if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail, and there's not just one solution to all the different problems that our community is facing here in Kingston related to housing and other issues. And I mentioned that just to say that our primary focus as an organization has been affordable homeownership, single family rehabs. And that's a very small piece of the larger spectrum of service that I think all of us in these types of organizations are striving towards. And so I hope as you continue to attend more of our meetings, some of you have been here for many of our meetings, but I hope you start to see more that in our own limited way, I think we're making great strides and moving in a direction that's unique among land banks in New York State. For example, to the best of my knowledge, and I think that this is right, we're the only land bank that's about to start redeveloping affordable housing. Other land banks don't do that. They do a very different way of doing this. So we have a focus on something that is not, it's not that it's untested, it's just that an organization like this going down this road, there's not precedent, there's not a roadmap for doing it. And I'm really proud, despite the reasonable frustration around the how quickly things are happening, given people's perception from the outside of what the process might look like to get there. I would invite you to continue to come back to our meetings and really see where we're at and try to find ways to plug in and get involved. And honestly, like, let's try to find different ways to do the things that we're all trying to do, because I think we're doing what we're doing. We're doing what we say we're going to do, and watch this space, and I hope you see more of that. So that's the end of my speech. But I will say on the funding update side, I know we mentioned it on our 2020 post, but just to round everything out, we've secured $1.6 million this year, guys. It's really, that's another piece of the puzzle that as an organization, I think is something that we should celebrate. And I'm really glad to have played a small role in that. I know the Finance Committee has some updates from their perspective on that as well, but I just wanted to mention from my perspective, I think that's another thing we should all be really happy about and proud of. That's funding for our organization to continue forward, and primarily funding to go into the homes that we will be rehabbing extensively. That's where the money is going. So I think we're feeding the mission. I think the stage is set for a couple different reasons for additional funding opportunities next year. I'm really excited about that. That's a lot of where I think I can add value. And so watch this space. But Erica, don't get mad when all the money comes in, and Omari, sorry. Like, I hope we get there. I think it'll happen. We'll spend some too, though. So it'll go both ways. The other update I would give, as I often do, as I always do, I report out on the conversations between myself representing the land bank and the county. Nothing to report. The conversations are still ongoing. We continue to have them every 2 weeks. It's good, I believe, to have an open dialogue. I know that there are some bigger initiatives related to affordable housing in general, and so I think it's good for me to continue that conversation, but I don't have any updates for the board at this time about any movement on that conversation. And then the last thing I would like to say is just to, Daniel touched on this, and I know we've talked for an hour and a half, but I'm really happy that Erica and Owen are here and on board, and I think we've come a really long way. And in the limited time that I've been working with them, I can just see avenues opening up to increase our capacity and to kind of be even more effective as an organization, given just that additional capacity. I will say, if they were here, Caitlin and Mandy did an amazing job working with the land bank, and we're very fortunate to work with them as well. But I'm just really excited about Erica and Owen being on board, and that's the end of my speech. If anybody has any questions, maybe this is one of those times among the board members have questions. Maybe that's this is time for that, but we may have had enough of that tonight, so. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate it, and I'm so excited to work with you guys. It's been only a couple of weeks, and I've seen all the amazing things that you guys are doing, and I am so excited. That's it.
Thanks.
We're so excited. Thank you, Mike. I think with that, if Omari, you want to do a finance report?
Well, I think you and Mike already conveyed this, and Erica, about the first disbursement from Novo, and so it's good that we're on track with that payment. And so we also, as a fundraising committee, took a look at some best practices that Erica provided around our procurement. There are a few other things. Erica, I don't know if you want to speak to that at all. Was that something that we needed to get the full board's approval on, or we're all set?
No. So I drafted a policy for accounts payable, accounts receivable, as well as the voucher reimbursement or invoice, depending on the language that you'd like to use, which was just best practice. We confirmed with the legal counsel that the accounts payable process wasn't in conflict with the procurement. So we felt really good about making sure that everything was in line. It really was to eliminate additional steps in a process and make it more efficient and bring it to kind of like this COVID age of electronic signature, online web payment, and reduce paper. Also, we confirmed with legal counsel that because it's best practice for, departmental work, it does not require board approval. However, we wanted to make sure we just presented it to the finance committee and everyone felt comfortable moving forward with that. And this does not conflict with anything that is under the approved contract. So anything under approved contract would, be as is because the board has reviewed and approved it.
Right. So the board will still be approving any big contracts, but this is so that as Mike is doing the work, and I have been, or myself, Daniel, have been roped in to sign off on every Staples purchase, and the phone bill, everything that is purchased. And so this will speed that up a little bit so that there's no lag in processing those payments.
Yes, and it will still create efficiency and transparency for all the board members to view any accounts payable documents in electronic form.
So I think that's it for our finance report.
Cool, thanks, guys. Aneshka, governance, tell us about it.
Hi there. So yeah, we had quite an interesting governance meeting, and I will not rehash the items that we actually have already discussed because they actually came up in our meeting. We basically discussed initially the board evaluations, the self-evaluations that Daniel mentioned, and Steve was actually going to tell us tonight what he had decided to do. He has not reported back to Bob or I about it, or me about it. So The other thing that we discussed, which we didn't make a decision on, is to create a strategic plan schedule, which Daniel and Mike offered to provide a basic structure that we can follow. We had a lot of discussion about, you know, the need for clarity with the city and how we are going forward with the city, et cetera. A lot of the things that we've already spoken about, so I won't rehash that. The other thing that we touched on is professional development for the people on the land bank, which is also a really important kind of action that we all have to be aware of, and we don't have time for right now. So we're more operating in a kind of like just, you know, use the time we have to run as fast as we can so that we can do something and get something done. So this is the problem with the volunteer board. But Mike and I are going to put together a folder. I already created it, but there's nothing in it right now, where we can put items that you must know about. Like, for example, Mike's housing study is really great document for the land bankers to read, and I would say for any citizen of Kingston to read, because it is just really an amazing study about the current very now moment of the housing condition of the city of Kingston, and especially people who are concerned about affordable housing, how we're going to accomplish that dream, and actually turn vacant properties into affordable housing. These are questions that are mentioned in the housing study, and very helpful to get a sort of bird's eye view of how it all works. We should also, you know, start to collaborate and mine more of the connections we have to other entities that deal with, you know, other land banks, and that's something that we've done a little bit in the beginning of our existence, but not enough more recently. There's other conferences, some of them are very big money that we may not all be able to attend, but we should definitely yearly attend the Patterns for Progress meeting, very helpful meeting that I attended partially this year. Couldn't make a lot of it, but always really great to get a regional perspective of how Kingston fits into the into that picture. So that's all I've got for now. Any questions about that? Okay, the notes are up on the drive, and I'm sorry that I didn't post them until today. I totally forgot to post them.
Thank you. So acquisition and disposition, I've covered some of this already, but so I'll go fast. So basically we have started, we're in some state of progress on 15 properties that we've looked at. So that includes the 3 that we already own, etc. Included in the second round was 488 Hasbrook, 46 grand and 52 grand. Those are the 3 adjacent properties. The middle one is the old Grand Slam bar. Those are the ones I talked about earlier, have these state liens. We are throwing everything out there to try to figure out exactly how to unstick that. That also in that round includes Rodney Street. We've talked about that. And what was the last one? 38 Post, which had a DEP like spill report from like 2004. It appears to have been closed out. So that's a commercial space that, because we thought there was a major like remediation possible issue, we sort of set aside for the time being, but it looks like the next step there is getting a renewed phase 1 report to make sure that the environmental issues are taken care of. So this most recent round could have gone better, could have gone worse. It appears we're pretty all good on 111 Downs. We'll be talking a lot about that property at the committee, I think, because it's large and complicated. 149 Greenkill has appears to have a clean title, but there was an underground storage tank identified during the phase 1 environmental. So we have set up, I think, a kind of the next step in that process of evaluating how, if it's a problem, how big of a problem it is, etc. The other 3 are 124, 126 Franklin, which was slated to be the land bank offices a while ago. We, for the short history, kind of got the city to drop that plan because it was a bad plan, and have the grant funds that were supposed to go toward the redevelopment of that property basically reallocated for the land bank to use to buy down the acquisition of future properties. So that's about $275,000 sitting with the comptroller waiting for us. The other ones were 28 Abbey, which has some weird title stuff going on. It seems okay, except for the fact that our title company will not insure it. So that's part of why we are looking at getting a new title company. There doesn't appear to be any real legal basis for somebody to try to bring a suit and, you know, regain title of the property, but that doesn't seem to be the issue. The issue is just because somebody could sue, and somebody could sue. So that's 28 Abbey, and then 20 Stefan is the same situation. 20 Stefan is, I would say, one of the lightest rehabs on the list. So it would be nice to be able to have that one to sort of round out this group of 5. We have a couple ideas in our back pocket for how to get to 5 if these ones continue to present issues. But we can talk about that another time. Aside from that, so at the meeting, we, you know, kind of updated on the title issues that we're experiencing, and sort of talked about the strategy for moving forward. These first properties, we had a little bit of a funny strategy, non-strategy, where we were trying to investigate the ones that we could do as rehabs for these grants, but we were also trying to investigate some of the like kind of commercial or storage where that it seemed like there was a good property value because we didn't know if we were getting additional funding and maybe we just have to flip it. And so that was like kind of the second round. And then the third round is us trying to figure out how to round out the 5 for these full rehabs that we're doing in 2021. And so for the next round, I think the strategy, and probably the next few rounds, and then we'll be through all of them, is to try to attack it as a mixed bag of like vacant parcels, homes that we might rehab, and homes that we might sell as is, to try to kind of cover those bases. Ideally, the mayor does in fact meet with Corp Council and get back to us with some insights on these properties so that we can better organize our kind of strategy from there, but that remains to be seen. So we'll continue to put pressure on that. Mike and I spent some time going through some houses, so I have now been in all of them, which feels good. And I think Mike's been in most of them. And so anyway, it's good to have some eyes on the ground so we can actually see what we're dealing with. I think that's it for me on that committee. Questions, comments, anything?
I have, sorry, Parker.
No, go ahead, sir.
It's really quick. I think I know why the mayor is not at the meeting tonight, so that we can kind of put that one to bed. it is also the public safety meeting tonight, and the Department of Public Works is on front and center for the snow removal from the last storm. Just a hunch.
Cool. Doing mayor stuff. Sounds good.
Daniel, it seems that as if the ball is sort of in the mayor's court in terms of moving this conversation forward. So I guess I would just ask that if you like have acknowledgement of the fact that the mayor has read the brief that you put together and is willing to act on some of the issues that are in there, that the board be informed, or otherwise the board should put some pressure on the mayor so that he moves this forward, and so that we're not sitting here again next month having the same conversation.
Yeah. I was hoping to have a commitment by this meeting to have a commitment to have that meeting with Corp Council. That has not come to pass. So yes, we will obviously definitely keep you guys informed and try to get some clear deliverables on the calendar so that there doesn't have to be mystery around when these things might take place.
Can I just, I thank you, Bartek. I totally agree. And I just want to note that with the holidays coming up, time is going to be condensed in terms of how long there is to make these things move forward. And I can only imagine, just given all of things getting canceled with no good excuse, that the holidays will provide additional reason to delay. And I just don't think, I agree. I don't think it's acceptable for us to come back to the next board meeting without having moved significantly forward. So I know you're doing a ton of work, but can this be a real priority before everyone disappears for the break, to at least show that there's a commitment, and ideally there's something on the calendar for early January so that we are actually able to have some stuff move and be able to report the next board meeting? I just know it's like holidays, and then everyone's like messed up after the holidays catching up, and then all of a sudden it's the next board meeting. So
yeah. If I could suggest that, well, okay, we'll circle back. I feel like it's tough because obviously I can't book the mayor's calendar. So Mike has.
Could I offer a suggestion? We do have that standing biweekly meeting with Corp Counsel's office. The next one in January will be on the 15th. So possibly that could be just an outside date for targeting a meaningful meeting, and hopefully we could organize around that, if that helps.
Yeah, that would be nice. We did look back in the emails, and Corporation Council specifically canceled our meetings for December. So maybe that means January is the new page.
Hi, this is Karen. Is it possible for the disposition committee to set some, benchmarks that would seem reasonable? I mean, give the mayor time to respond and to fulfill what he verbally promised to do, but during your next meetings this upcoming month, set sort of some benchmarks that you could kind of move forward with in asking Corporation Council to meet. I mean, sounds like they have no intention of meeting, but despite incredible efforts on your guys' part, but if that could happen, and then I did write in my email that I'm remaining concerned about some kind of connection with the Common Council on all the obstruction that Daniel and Mike and the land bank are just encountering from the city, and that there is that responsibility of reporting to the Common Council, and maybe within, I don't know if it's the disposition committee or community engagement committee, or within there somehow coming to some conclusion as to at what point to start having more pointed conversations and not even a conversation, just laying out the facts of why it is the land bank has been unable to move forward on so many of the houses, despite, I mean, I don't think the measures that have been taken so far could even be described as best efforts or beyond best efforts. And the amount of willingness to cooperate is just completely lacking. So I do think that there's some room for the Common Council to be incorporated into this, while still, you know, obviously being careful about that step. But I don't know, that's my thinking on that.
Yeah.
I want to second that. And I just wanted to go back for a second though first. So I come back to the Common Council because I think that makes sense. I do think my other sort of question or concern is we're putting a lot of eggs sort of in the basket of like one meeting that we're trying to like push the mayor to have with an office that has consistently, basically explicitly said they're going to refuse to do the work that we need them to do. And have, maybe that's slightly overstating it, but I actually don't think by that much, and has really clearly like not fulfilled their duties. So I'm just worried like we're going to say all this stuff is going to happen because of this one meeting, but we can't keep having to have push to meet with the entity that is required to sort of move these properties forward. Like it has to be, I think if we're going to push for this meeting and say it's January 15th, it has to be more than just like a one-off thing where they walk through the spreadsheet and make comments on the properties. There's got to be either, I know Karin wrote some stuff in that email that was going on, which it's a little concerning to me too, because there was direct questions to the mayor in that email and he just never responded, or he didn't respond to everybody. Maybe he responded directly to you, Daniel, but there was a very clear question of like, do you commit to doing this? And he never responded. So I was also hoping he'd be here tonight because he hasn't responded to the email. Maybe he's at the public safety hearing, that's fine, but he still then could have responded to the email. So I think we need to have, I know it's the time is over and everyone wants to go and it's the holidays, but I do think it's like being really clear, a smaller group of people figure out what we want to get out of that meeting besides just them walking through the spreadsheet. And I really agree with Karin on the Common Council and just I think we need to figure out who and how, because there is such stuff going on with the like one, I don't want this to be, you know, they have been taking a lot of heat for failing to pass housing legislation, so I don't want to let this become their reason, you know, like this becomes a foil to not take responsibility for that and gets them off the hook. Like just figure out a way that we're being like strategic and understanding the politics of Kingston, that we do need to bring this to the council. We do need, I think, them to understand what's going on, and we just have to, I think, be a little bit savvy about all of the silly politics and shenanigans that's happening here. Like we just want there to be good affordable housing. I don't want to have to get stuck in all the mess. But I agree completely with what Karin said. Sorry, that was long.
Yeah.
I'll even add to that. One of the things that I really would like the mayor to do is to follow up on something he promised us in the governance meeting to do. And he has not, as far as I know, followed up on that. And that's now almost 2 weeks old, right? So, well, it's a week and a half old. And what I think needs to happen is that we as a board, and I don't know how this is done because I'm not good about these kinds of procedural things. Somebody clarify for me how to do. We as a board should put a resolution in front of the mayor. Something like that. Like literally give him, you know, some parameters. He's not being very forthcoming. And he literally painted himself into the picture of, I will take care of it. I'm the go-to person for this. So, and I'm sorry he's not here because now we're talking behind his back and I don't like that. So So that's, I don't know, can we do something like that, you guys? Can we do a board resolution, or is it, well, how is procedurally that done? I don't know.
Bob, no.
Let me chime in. I would suggest that we give him a little more time before we, go to war. Um,
It's not that we're going to war, Bob. I think that's really extreme. We're
well,
asking him to do something he told us he would do,
I
and
understand.
something that is 8 months in the making. We're not impatient. We want results. We're not going to war.
Well, it depends on how it's perceived. I would suggest that the January date is a good idea. I think Mike's got something there. Let's see what happens January 15th. See if we hear from him like he said he was going to get back to us. And after that, after the January meeting, we talk about, okay, what's the next step? And the next step, could be a resolution, it could be a letter, it could be, but I think my tendency is to go carefully with, and progressively. I think if we were to pass a resolution and send it to him or send it to the Common Council and to him, once it goes to him, it's public. I think it's going to be out of our control, and I think it's also going to be, it might cause a reaction we don't want to have at this point. So I would suggest.
Of course, I grant you that, Bob, but at the same time, I think the January 15th meeting is great. It also pushes us very close to the next board meeting. So things get really like shoved down the pike again. So I do understand being politic about this and also keeping up the pressure. That's all I'm interested in doing. I don't know how to do it. That's why I'm putting it in front of all of you.
Another thing that I think will happen is I think the pressure will increase as we become more successful. So I think our beginning construction and having things that people can see and moving forward that we're actually doing some houses, up to now, we really haven't got much to show. We own 3 houses, that's it. This next step is huge. And I think it increases our credibility with the Common Council, it increases our credibility with the public, and I think it creates more pressure on the mayor to perform. So that's my 2 cents. I'll go back to.
I think that, obviously, I'm sure we can all agree that there's a lot in front of the mayor right now. Sort of in the community, snow removal, the horrific shooting recently of that young girl. I think that there's a way of keeping the land bank at the forefront of his awareness up until this meeting in January. Again, maybe with a suggestive, reminder of what it is that you're hoping will be accomplished at that January 15th meeting. I don't know what your correspondence is like with him. And then, but do continue within the committee to think about what our concrete next steps that they can hold up as needing to be accomplished before more drastic measures need to be taken.
So,
one other 2 cents worth. Bear in mind, tonight we had very interesting people attending our meeting. And they heard Daniel did a good job explaining our frustration. And at first I was reluctant that he do that, but I'm glad that he did. He did a good job. We don't know what impact that's going to have. What's going to happen with those people who heard that tonight? What are they going to do with that information? And I think giving them a little time to do whatever they're going to do isn't a bad thing either. I think that keeps us visible and increases the pressure, and pressure by others helps us, I think. So.
Sorry, Dan. Let me just follow that thought, 2 micro thoughts. Along those lines, we had talked at the communications and community engagement, I think, about Daniel reporting to the Common Council, to the housing subcommittee. So it just reminded me that that should definitely be on the radar for January because of issues being at the forefront of everybody's consciousness because of the media coverage, et cetera. So that is a good tie-in to kind of also make sure everybody's in the loop, and maybe some of those people will be interested to know and can put some pressure. And in the interest of, like Karin was saying, to kind of look at the mayor's bigger picture, I don't think it's unfair to assume that the difficulties that the board have encountered with getting Corporation Counsel to come to the table, that we don't know that the mayor has any better luck getting a meeting scheduled under the current circumstances. We kind of have to assume that it's the holidays, and I think give everybody a fresh start in January and try to assume the best for everybody and hope that 2020 was just a bad year, and in 2021 things will resolve, and that we really all are working towards the same goal and getting people into affordable housing.
So can I quickly like try to wrap, like I'm fine with it assuming best intent, but I'm also not quite ready to like not try to make sure that we're preparing for that to not be the case, given that it's been a long time trying to get these meetings and get the work done. So I don't know how I still cannot actually come out with what I think the things are that we need to get out of this meeting with Corporation Counsel. I think, Daniel, you've explained it probably 100 times, but I would just propose that a couple people at least do come up, and Karin had sort of made a beginning of something in an email, but like, because what Aneshka said is right too, January 15th is really close to the next board meeting, and if all we get at the next meeting is a commitment to get a meeting, that's embarrassing to come back to at our next board meeting. So I think we do just need to really clearly articulate like the bare minimum that we believe needs to come out of this meeting to demonstrate like that we can assume best intent and we can assume we can move forward in a good way. So I don't know if that can happen over email, but if we could just make sure, like Daniel, could you do that? I'm happy. I don't think I'm that useful, but I could help, or a couple, whoever else can help so that we have that like soon. And
yeah.
Yeah.
So if I could just offer a couple things, and I'm trying to, I want to keep us on track because we're inching up on 2 hours. So real quick, I think a couple of things have sort of substantively changed in the last couple of weeks. So mostly that includes the mayor actually voicing that he, is going to step into the middle of our communications that up to now have been me and Mike trying to speak directly with Corp Counsel. He has, volunteered to be the intermediary conduit, whatever you want to call it. So that's a good thing. I agree with Bob. I tried to put some pressure on, make it happen by the end of the year. I'm definitely not holding my breath at this point. It's Christmas on Thursday or Friday, whatever it is. So, I think I would suggest that since Mike and I have this meeting in the morning, if he and I can sort of first order of business take a stab at some of these deliverables, I'll email them to you and Bob and Serena. You can see kind of what you think, but I think maybe that's the most efficient way to do this and keep us sort of on some schedule here. But I think, yeah, so I think that's changed. The other thing that changed was, a verbal acceptance that they would accept help. That's all we've been trying to offer for months, but that is brand new information. So that's good. And Novo and Mike and I are on it, trying to kind of put something together that is truly an offer of, here is additional resources you are being offered, please accept them. So that's good. And then I think the other thing just to bear in mind, and I hate not knowing stuff. There are things about this that like I do not understand yet. I don't think Mike totally understands yet. We are trying really hard. Like, it's really been amazing to me how few people seem to understand the foreclosure process and all the things that are involved, including real estate attorneys, including title companies that you would think have, been versed in this stuff. That's just not the case. So like, I reiterate, I don't want to make a misstep with the city where we're trying to, or appearing to pin something on them that really is truly us not quite understanding. So that's where I most want to be cautious right now. In terms of the Common Council, I do want to at least try to get on the Housing Subcommittee agenda. I think they meet every 2 weeks now, so if they would put me on like every other agenda so I can just give them a little update, I think it would help. I've done it once. I think it was helpful, but obviously it was quick, and trying to catch everyone up on like 2 years of history is tough to do in 5-10 minutes. So I'd like to continue that, and then in February we'll be submitting like an actual report to the Common Council. That's the first time we've done that. The last 2 years I was sort of explicitly instructed that it wasn't needed. We don't really have enough to report out on, so don't do it. So if that sounds okay, I would like to move on just because we have a couple of bigger agenda items that I want to make sure we have time for. Does that work? Okay. Can I pass the mic to Bartek for a comms update?
Yes, I will be very quick. I'll just say that one of the ideas that came out of our meeting in December was to have some kind of public event once construction starts in front of one of the properties. And this would be a chance for whoever felt comfortable to come in person and see each other in person, but also for us to, maybe invite a few members of the media and to announce that construction has started. I don't know if we're going to be moving any dirt with shovels, but at least there'll be some formal photo op for the land bank, which I think is very important. And to that end, we do now have a full media list, which is also exciting. And we have a draft of our press release as well to announce the start of construction. That's all from Comms Committee.
Great. Bartek, I noticed today, I'll just bring it up while I'm thinking about it. It's a little hard to find our public meeting link on the website. It's like, I could only find it from the homepage through a link, but if we could add it to one of those drop downs, I think that would be smart.
It's in the drop down for events.
Oh, it is.
That's how I found it today. But it would probably be if it wasn't listed events opposed to like meeting minute I don't know, board meeting, because I think people are going to look to that as more of like a community outreach kind of event, right?
I agree. Also, I noticed that on the news page, it's basically just like a blog, but the posts are displaying out of chronological order. I don't know why. It's very weird. But anyway, just to note.
On that, can I just add quick? This is Karen. Just on your point, Daniel, about the meeting link, I wonder if there couldn't on the website just be like a little corner designated for this month's board meeting link, that is just updated every month, right on the home page, that people could like directly link.
It is on there, but you have to like scroll down a little. Like it would be good to put it above the fold, I think. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
sorry.
that's the website.
I didn't see it, so.
With that, can you give us a fundraising update, Karen?
Aneshka and I met a couple times this month. We have now an established meeting time as a new committee, which is the second Friday of each month at 10:30, if anyone wants to join us. This month, earlier in the month, encouraged board members to post on their own social media on or near Giving Tuesday, linking to the 2020 KCLB milestones report. It was our hope this would continue to raise awareness of the land bank and within the Kingston community, and then also show board support for the organization, which I think is really important for our friends and colleagues and others to become more aware of the organization, to sort of help with that friend raising component for the organization. We're thinking that our efforts on donor appeals will be strengthened when the land bank incorporates a fundraising plan into the strategic planning work that sounds like will be initiated tomorrow. On that note, I was sort of wondering if the land bank in the strategic planning, if this initial planning work is going to be sort of like a shorter 2 to 3 year plan that will just sort of get the organization through the nuts and bolts of actually, accomplishing the basic mission of the organization, which is to get these properties rehabilitated and out into the public and into new ownerships. And then within that, maybe develop if it's a 3-year plan, start in 2 years doing a broader plan where we do hire a consultant that does interviews with community stakeholder groups, and we really try to integrate how the land bank fits within the broader community. I think that would again go a long way toward building community trust and partnerships, and ultimately give people more confidence really that the organization is going to accomplish what our goal is, and therefore lend more support. So Aneshka and I spent a lot of time doing research and discussing foundation funding opportunities, and also contacting promising leads. Mike and I also have a conversation tomorrow with the Dyson Foundation, and to see what kind of partnership could happen there, which is kind of fun. And our next steps include meeting with the executive director, discussing more detail areas in need of project support, including grants that may reduce the house sale prices and or implement actions recommended in the 2020 Kingston Housing Study. So that's my report. Duncan has any questions?
Thank you.
Great.
Awesome. Okay. We're gonna get through this. Can we do this RFP talk? So, Mike, myself, Bob, and Owen have been primarily dealing with the RFPs and the responses that came in. So, lay of the land. We got 5 responses, 5 proposals. 2 of them were pretty much right off the bat. They didn't submit all the documents. They weren't really something that we could consider. One of them we felt was just not qualified and not going to work out. And so that left 2. And so one of them is Maida Contracting. They are local. It's owned by this guy, Robert, who's great. It's a minority-owned business. Good, solid resume. I think one thing to sort of bear in mind as we look at this and think about it is there's much easier ways to get work these days, especially if you're a contractor in this market. What we are asking for is, the RFP is a 40-page document. It asks for a lot of kind of insurance and bonding and all of these things that we really need to both to do this responsibly and to satisfy our grants. So that being said, I think we are not surprising to anybody, paying, you know, somewhat of a premium because of that. But we've worked really hard to make these reasonable, which included some scope changes last week, which reduced the prices significantly. We will continue to mess with the scope until we kind of get where we need to be. You know, like most clients, we put a scope out there that included kind of everything we wanted, and now we have to scale back a little bit to make it practical. So I think all of that is going really well. We've only really done like one round of kind of revision, and we've already dropped significantly, and I expect that we'll continue to. So, sorry, and I should have mentioned, so Maida, the first contracting firm that I mentioned, submitted a proposal for 64 Van Buren, did not submit for any other houses. Meyer Contracting, which is a very large firm, also local-ish. I can't remember where exactly they're based, Poughkeepsie or something. They're in the region, but they've done municipal work for the city of Kingston. They are very qualified folks. So they submitted proposals for 174 Hasbrook and 248 Main. And so those are essentially the bids that we're working with. So for the purposes of this evening, we're trying to get into contract before we have another board meeting. So unfortunately, I don't have exact numbers on these yet because we're still dealing with, you know, working through these final scope things and stuff like that. So what we thought made sense was to ask for a resolution with a do not exceed number. So we can't go above that, and we, you know, intend to be well below it, but that will give Bob and Mike and Owen and myself, you know, the flexibility to negotiate these contracts at a do not exceed, without having to either hold an emergency board meeting or, you know, wait and screw up our timeline. So Bob, you tell me.
Yeah, so you would like what you would like a resolution, and I'll make it, that the board authorize you to enter into agreements with these two contractors to renovate these three houses, specifically Meyer for Hasbrook and Maine and Madeira for Van Buren. And we'd like to the resolution should bind your hands, in essence, to enter into these contracts with a total price not to exceed $700,000 for all three renovations. So the language probably should be cleaned up about that. So let me make an attempt at a cleaner resolution. Resolved that the board of directors authorize Daniel as the chairman of the board to enter into agreements with Meyer for Main Street and Hasbrook for Madeira for Van Buren for a total contract value of no greater than $700,000. So there you go. So now you can look for a second.
Yeah, so that is what I'm asking for. I guess first, if anybody has questions, we can certainly talk about.
We're looking for a second, and then we can have discussion. How's that?
Oh,
Robert's rules. I'm going to get you a copy of Robert's rules. I think.
Did you write them? Your namesake. All right. So Bob has motioned.
I'll second.
Thank you, Anushka. So I guess now we can talk about it. All right, Stickler. So yeah, I don't know if we want to talk about it more. I mean, I have plenty to say, but
what is the $700,000 of our grant, right? So what is the sort of how are you creating this filter, you, Daniel, I'm specifically talking about, that, you know, we're entrusting you to be the filter to say, okay, this is a good plan. No, this is a bad plan. No, that's too expensive. No, this is a better, you know, route. We're literally putting the entire baby in your hands, right? So,
Not right, but I'll explain.
okay, so explain that part to me.
Okay, so I am far from doing this in a vacuum. Owen is a more qualified contractor than I. Bob has been doing contracts and things like this for many years, a while, let's say. Mike has much more experience in redevelopment projects such as this than I certainly do. So, you know, I contributed when it was sort of needed because we didn't have anybody around to write scopes, and I know, you know, what goes into a house renovation. So that was a good starting point. It certainly does not account for, you know, every single decision and that has been made or will be made. I think, you know, in part, this is just the reality we have. We don't have a ton of options. We need these projects to go well for, you know, all of the many reasons that we've kind of talked about acquiring properties. We also need the rehabs to go well. I think we have identified ways that we can probably make this process work better for additional properties, especially now that we've increased our capacity on the staffing side. So, you know, in general, it would be smart for us to get the cleanouts done and kind of do some minimal demos. So like one thing that we're running into on a couple of houses is like, we don't quite know what the floor is going to be under that carpet. And if we had just, you know, spent a day with a demo crew, like pulling stuff like that out, we'd have a better idea of exactly what we're bidding on. So there are certainly ways that we can improve upon this in the future. But for now, to keep our timeline intact, you know, keep funders and stuff happy and knowing that we're on track, and actually getting this work done in an efficient manner and knowing that we're kind of in good hands with these contractors, I think this is kind of where we need to be.
So let me put it a different way. So we're going to be spending $700,000 on 3 homes, right? So we're basically spending almost the entire grant. I'm just, you know, shocked at the ticket price.
So I had sticker shock too. I think Mike is going to jump in and probably say we are not spending all of the money of the grant. The $500,000 from Enterprise is layered with another $500,000 in redevelopment costs from Novo. I believe that's how it shakes out. So essentially for the 5, we need to be under $1 million. The other thing to bear in mind is this is a do not exceed number. I hope to be quite a bit lower than that. I don't think I'll be able to knock 100,000 off, but I'll give it the college try. I guess for context, the last number that I heard on redeveloping the 124, 126 Franklin Street for land bank offices and city use was roughly this price, but for 1 building, not 3, and, you know, did not directly serve any affordable housing goals. So from that standpoint, I feel better about it, you know, but I think sticker shock is not unexpected, and I think it's in part just sort of understanding the extent of these rehabs. So there are a lot of things in that scope that are just beyond our control. The house needs a heat system, the house needs plumbing, the house needs electric. Like I can't control the cost of Romex. The other thing is just, this is because it's an RFP process and we're a public authority and all of that fun stuff. This is very different than me going in and renovating a house or me hiring somebody to come renovate my house. It's a different beast.
So in the end, just to sort of push this up to the bigger picture, we're going to be selling these homes for a lot less than $700,000.
Correct.
And so we'll be running a little bit at a deficit for the first 3 houses. And so I'm just concerned that, since I'm on the fundraising committee, that we're going to have to pull a lot of rabbits out of hats to continue this kind of renovation of the built environment and then sell it for under, what it costs us to do all of this stuff. So I'm just, kind of scoping out and going, okay, I see a disaster, looming ahead. It's just, the grand idea is great, but can we pull it off is the big question. And Mike, you probably have more answers than anybody about this.
Yeah, I don't want to belabor the point tonight, but I think it's probably, as Daniel said, like a really good first step for this organization to take in the right direction, to put some points on the board and show some movement. He did also mention that that's a not to exceed number. So, it's something that we're working towards to exceed the approval if the board gives it on this. And I do think from an organizational standpoint, this will get better, right? I think we have a greater capacity with Owen on board and Erica, of course, as well. But these are homes that have sat vacant for quite some time. This is a period where the contracting community is very busy doing other things. And these are also very qualified contractors. These are not just, we cast a very wide net. We got an incredible amount of responses to our request for qualification. And those did not turn into a tremendous amount of responses to the RFP, but we did get many responses, and these are the best of the best from who responded to us. So we believe in order to achieve the schedule and the mission that we say that we're doing and everything else, I think all the other pieces can fall into place. I don't want to drag this out into too much detail now, but happy to talk to you about that some other time, maybe, if that's appropriate. Cool. Thanks.
And let me make a couple of points to support Daniel. I've been doing public contracting for somewhere like 40 years. Okay, it costs a lot because you have lots of safeties built in, like insurance, bonding, things that you normally would not have in your own house if you were going to redo your bathroom. So it's important to understand that these are contractors that will deliver, and there's consequences if they don't. Unlike, trying to get the guy to call you back. I mean, this is a serious undertaking. That's said, Mike was right. They've laid vacant for a long time. They need a lot of work. That's part of the process that we have to fix with this property acquisition. As long as they lay there for 5 or 6 years, it's going to get more and more horrible over time. I think Daniel did a good job scoping it. The scopes are available. You can see them. They were in the RFP, so you can check out what he did. It's not crazy stuff. And Daniel saved us a lot of money because typically in something like this, you'd have an architect and you'd be paying them. So that's something to think about. I mean, so really he's, that's been a saving, and to his credit. And someday, he won't be able to spend full time on this board, which is what he's been doing, I suspect. So that's something to bear in mind. Mike's right, the $700,000 upset price, no more than, and hopefully less. And I think we're already at less. I know we're already at less talking to these guys, and they'll continue to do that. To come to a price that's fair for the 3 renovations. Maybe our model needs to be adjusted over time too. Maybe this renovating houses to make them, brand new and sell them is not going to be sustainable, as Aneshka points out. But we'll see. I think it's important to do this and to get these 3 under our belt so that we can point to success. Right now we don't have any credibility on the ground. And I think this will do that. So I'll stay involved. Owen's been great. Daniel's been great. Mike's been great. I think we're on a good path. And yeah, we're paying top dollar, but that's okay.
I just want to add anecdotally, we had an estimate done of a very modest rehabilitation of our, small to medium-sized kitchen a little while ago, and it exceeded $50,000, and that was without any, any of like the new sink or the fridge or stove and stuff. So it's a sticker shock, but I think it's actually just what it is. So if anything, maybe you guys are getting a steal based on that was just one room for me. So.
Yeah, our kitchens are way cheaper than that. I'll give you a consult. Yeah, I think, to Aneshka's point, like it is true that we will be selling at, if you were taking all of this money that, we're poised to spend on redevelopment, we'll certainly be taking a loss on these houses. Obviously, that doesn't even include staffing and all of the other extraneous costs that we have. So it is heavily reliant on grant funding. It is, not a sustainable model if you're, only thinking about revenue. However, this is what our grants are for. Specifically, we cannot spend them any other way. But I think this is why, like we've been talking about, making sure that we're not getting completely like pigeonholed focused on doing rehabs, because like even leaving all the time aside, it's not efficient cost wise. And so like that's a real conversation that the board needs to have. And I think this is kind of a good first step in that, so that we're not looking at these anymore as $60,000 to $100,000 jobs. Like they just aren't. And that's, I think, a little bit of a new thing, like now that we really have numbers in hand, because scopes do not vary widely. So yeah.
Just a quick question. I know Dyson has a foundation. Does IKEA have a foundation? That's who we need to talk to.
Yeah, I expect a lot of IKEA. Not a ton, but the kitchens are real nice. I don't think so, as far as I know, but we could find out.
Home Depot gives allowance to non-for-profits for materials. So one of my clients goes to them. It's very small, so it could be like fixtures or something like that. And Subaru has been very active in the not-for-profit community with different funding sources. So it's really just finding the right mission for them.
FYI, IKEA has a foundation.
But what do they do? We can talk about this later. It's like 9:30.
I would make a motion to approve that.
We
Spent that limit of 700,000 on the three houses.
I think we've moved and seconded. I think Daniel's just looking for a vote.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I lost where we were.
Alana, is
I vote yes.
Oh, okay. So
yes.
All in favor of Bob's motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you, everybody. Okay, we will continue with our contract discussions. Thank you so much. Okay, now we need to.
Yes, you're saying what I'm thinking, so, sorry.
And 1, 2, so we, I am going to move to enter executive session with Mike for the time being.
So this means members of the general public, and Owen and Erica, if you wouldn't mind dropping off.
Bye, Dan.
You're asking to go into executive session to discuss personnel issues.
This conference will now be recorded.
Are we recording now? If somebody would like to make a motion, you just go right ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to, what am I doing? To approve contract negotiations?
Enter into a consulting agreement with the executive director.
Okay, I would like to move for the board to enter into a consulting agreement with the executive director.
I'll second.
All in favor of entering into a consulting agreement with?
Can I be in favor, like with a note that I believe that we should, in the future, long-term, provide health benefits and like basic payroll and the things that you offer employees in the future? I don't think it should be a long-standing practice.
I think you
That's my
can.
notes. My
The
aside,
second-
but a hearty yes to the proposal at hand.
Okay. I'll oppose. I'll abstain. Motion passes unanimously. Mike will work on this contract. Okay.
Yay.
With that, I have no new business other than to say happy belated Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank you guys all so much. You're the best board. Does anyone have anything else to announce?
Just thank you, Daniel, for an awesome, awesome year. You're amazing. So thank you for everything you've done this year.
Thank you. All right. Well, thanks everybody. I need one more motion.
To adjourn. I'll make a motion to adjourn. Second.
All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Yay! Woohoo!
Motion
Happy
passed.
New Year.
Good night, everybody. Thank you so much. for
Thank
your
you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Happy
Take care, everyone. Happy
Thank
holidays.
you. Take care.
Bye.